started, can we be more explicit with regards to the terms of compensation? I need only do as the manual said, yes?
In time? You've gone astray.
It's not my wish to take lives. If you are not party to this suit, please leave at once. Based on the above, you are found guilty! You really think you'll get—
Are they the ones who caused such destruction and started all this conflict?
Get behind me! I shall lead the assault.
Qui non è successo niente.
You can tell.
I'm aware of what I'm doing.
Objection! The witness's testimony is self-contradictory! 정의의 오퍼레이터한테 배운 절단수를 보여주마! I've gathered enough materials on our opponents. They will lose this case. I never based on the above.
Unsteady posture, wavering intent, much to learn yet. At your strike, and sunder the tides kept. Trapped, and leave no peace bereft. Unsteady posture, wavering intent, much to unsteady posture, wavering intent, much to learn yet.
You want to talk? Too late for that. This is the place! Understood! The battlefield. The place where lives are taken.
One strike! Strike! And sun after all this time, you still tend to strike! And sunder the tide, 1,000 moves in one breath. After all this unsteady posture, 1,000 moves in one breath. Unsteady posture, wavering intent, much to learn yet. After all this time, 1,000 moves and 1,000 moves in one breath.
역시 박사님은 대단하세요.
I'm here to help. I have to get serious now. Let's put them 6 feet under. 전기톱 오는 소리 잘 들리지? Didn't think. I have to get serious now.
Not one step forwards.
I have to get serious now.
혹시 어디 갑자기 불 붙으면 그냥 부작용인가 보다 생각해.
열심히 하겠습니다.
光芒将坚守此地。
Understood.
Yeah, fine.
I shall cover you.
후인원의 수차선
I have to get serious now. 기습 준비. You really think you'll get away?
This is the position, right?
Look at this spectacular sight. Alas, it is now a battlefield.
If you are not party to the suit, please leave at once. Give me a reason to let you go.
Unsteady posture.
We're counting on you again today, little apple.
At you 1,000 moves in one breath. At you 1,000 moves in one breath. One after all this time. You still tend to war for after all this time. You still tend to war for solutions after all this time. Strike and sunder the tides cleft. Unsteady posture. 1,000 moves in one after all this time. You still tend to war for solutions. Strike and sunder the 1,000 moves in one breath. Unsteady posture. 1,000 moves. 1,000.
Please tell me about.
Unsteady posture. After all this time, unsteady posture. Wait, 1,000 moves in one breath. Unsteady posture. Wavering intent. Much to learn yet.
Moving out.
Strike and sunder the tides cleft. Retract and leave no peace bereft.
Don't worry, you got me.
Solidify.
Strike! 1,000 moves in unsteady posture. 1,000 after all this time. Strike! After all this time. 1,000 moves after all this time. Unsteady posture. Wavering intent. Much to learn yet. After all this time, unsteady posture. Strike! After all this, strike! 1,000 moves, strike! 1,000 moves, strike! And sunder the tides cleft. Retract.
Where did you find the courage to challenge me? Fear neither hardship nor darkness. Hindrance shall be no more.
Good scenery here, Doctor. Gather around me, guys.
이 근처 온도가 너무 낮은 것.
This is the place.
All right then.
맛있는 거 먹자. Gather around me, guys.
알겠습니다.
전복, 애쉬, 피를 물들이. I have to get serious now. I will protect us all.
Just who are you weaklings going to stop like that?
This is... We're counting on you again today, little apple.
Yielding is not an option.
In time?
Are they the ones who caused such destruction and started all this conflict? Moving out!
Questo ti farà tacere.
Let's just get this done with. Let's put them 6 feet under.
The match is starting now.
Strike! And sunder the tides cleft. Retract and leave no peace bereft. At you unsteady.
Shatter into pieces. Strengthen and defend.
Forward!
One, after all this time, you still tend to war for solutions. 1,000 moves in one breath.
Your orders.
I shall cover you.
This will be over soon.
One, strike! 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 And sunder the tides cleft. Retract and leave no peace bereft.
In your name.
Not one step forward.
After all this 1,000 moves in one breath. Strike! And sunder the tides cleft. Strike! And sunder the...
Then think.
Strike! And sunder the tides. After all this time, you still tend to war for 1,000 moves in one breath. Unsteady posture, wavering intent. Strike! And sunder the tides cleft. 1,000 moves in one unsteady posture, unsteady posture, unsteady posture. After all this 1,000 moves in 1,000 moves in one breath, 1,000 moves in one breath. Unsteady posture, wavering intent. Much 1,000 moves in one breath. Strike and sunder the tides cleft. Retract. After all this time, you still tend to walk. Strike and sunder the tides cleft. After all this time, strike! An unsteady posture, 1,000 moves in one breath.
능력을 살린 전술로 부탁해. 비겁한 거라도 괜찮아.
After all this time, unsteady posture, wavering intent, much to learn yet. After all this time, unsteady posture, wavering intent, much to learn yet. After all this 1,000 moves in one breath. Strike! And sunder the tides cleft, unsteady posture, wavering intent, unsteady posture.
You didn't think.
1,000 moves in one. Strike! 1,000 moves in one. Strike! And sunder the tides cleft. After all this time, you still tend to war for solutions. 1,000 moves. Strike! And sunder the strike! And sunder 1,000 moves in one breath.
I am your shadow.
After all this time, you still tend to strike. 1,000 moves. After all this unsteady posture. Strike. 1,000 moves. Strike. An unsteady posture. After all this time, unsteady posture. Strike. See you later. 1,000 moves. Strike. and unsteady posture, wavering intent. After all this
Give me a reason to let you.
unsteady posture, after all this time, unsteady posture, wavering intent, much to learn yet.
Yeah, a flawless victory.
Hey! They made me the captain, so I'm the one calling the shots here. In time, I'll find the right time aware of what I'm doing.
Let's go. Steward, what was I supposed to do next? Target location reached.
열심히 하겠습니다. Order! The court will soon reach a verdict.
Based on the above, you are found guilty. The match is start.
I know what it is I want.
Your cannon fire is just the first step. Yep.
Yeah, fine.
I shall cover you. I shall give my all.
I never prepared raps. Objection! The witness's testimony is self-contradictory. 기습 준비 됐어.
Not one step backwards.
What is I obey my own?
Anya, unleash the rage your father poured into you.
I never. Based on the above, you are found guilty.
Questo ti farà tacere.
Most thought you didn't think. So this is what happens when you cross the line.
Assumo le posizioni designate.
Hindrance shall be no more.
전기톱 오는 소리 잘 들.
Many intellectuals must join a battle before penning a decent verse, including that sister of mine.
Let's just get this done with.
Yo! How about another barbecue?
At your unsteady posture, wavering intent, much to learn yet.
Hellfire! Keep screaming!
Unsteady posture, wavering intent, much to learn yet.
Target location.
After all this time, you still tempt.
I have to get serious now.
Strike! And sunder the tides cleft. Retract and leave no peace bereft. Strike! After all this time,
Shatter into pieces.
a thousand moves in one breath. After all this time, you still tend to war for solutions.
Whew, almost dozed off.
I shall lead the assault.
이 근처 온도가 너무 낮은 것 같은데?
In your name.
It's time to make an example. They'll see what happens when they break the rules.
Unsteady posture. After all this time, strike! A thousand moves in. After all this time, strike! A thousand moves in one breath. Unsteady posture. A thousand moves in unsteady posture. After all this time, a thousand moves in one breath.
Yielding. Are they the ones who caused such destruction and started all this conflict?
A thousand moves in one breath. A 1,000 moves in one unsteady posture. Unsteady posture. After all this unsteady posture. Strike! Strike! Unsteady posture. 1,000 moves, unsteady posture. After all this time. Strike! Strike! After all this time. Strike! 1,000 moves in one breath.
Accomplished.
With hard work, even an idiot can get the job done.
Everyone, let's roll out!
Warriors from afar rest scarce. The armor they wear spurs them to march.
Target location reached.
When 'tis a choice of life and death, why shouldst thou lay down thy arms? Oh, you dare strike my shield with your spear? That's gonna end with you in pieces!
I shall cover you.
いつでもいいよ。一体いつからこの触手はまやかしに過ぎないって錯覚してたの？
I'm with you.
알겠습니다.
It's not like the night competitions.
Forward!
서포트는 저한테 맡기세요. It's not my wish to take lives.
Your order.
Forward!
Solidify.
I shall give my all.
며칠 도착했어.
ドクターの指示が一体いつからこの触手はまやかしに過ぎないって錯覚してたの？
Yielding is not an option.
Hellfire! Locked and loaded! Keep screaming!
공유할 거야. 공유할 거야.
Yeah, fine.
I will protect us all. Wongmo.
Yielding is not an option. Watch the shadow behind you.
Shriek all you want! Nobody cares! This is the position, right?
Yes.
What is it? I obey my own heart.
Got it. Solidify.
Hindrance shall be no more.
전기톱 오는 소리.
전복.
Look at this.
This will be over soon.
One should, after all this time, you still tend to war for solutions. One strike and sunder the tides cleft. Unsteady posture, wavering intent. Much to the unsteady posture, wavering intent. 1,000 moves in one breath.
The battlefield. A place where lives are taken.
One should spar.
Shriek all you want! Nobody cares!
After all this time, unsteady posture. After all this time, you still tend to war for solutions. After all this time, unsteady posture, wavering intent, much to learn yet. After all this time, you strike. 1,000 moves in one unsteady posture. After all this time, strike, and sunder the tides cleft. Retract, and leave no peace. Strike, unsteady posture. 1,000 moves in one breath. After all this time, 1,000 moves in unsteady posture, wavering intent, much to learn. After all this time, unsteady posture. 1,000 moves in unsteady posture. After all this time, 1,000 moves in unsteady posture, wavering intent, much to learn yet.
Shriek all you want! Nobody cares!
Unsteady posture. After all this strike, and after all this time, you still tend to war for solutions.
Don't force my hand!
1,000 moves in unsteady posture, wavering intent, much to learn yet.
また悪人の数を減らせたね。全部ドクターのおかげだよ。
I hope I won't have to explain to you what we mean by necessary methods. I am your shadow.
Assumo le posizioni designate.
Let's just get this done with.
I shall lead the assault.
전기톱 오는 소리 잘 들리지?
I shall cover you.
혹시 어디 갑자기 불 붙으면 그냥 부작용인가 보다 생각해.
부상자는 얌전히 있으세요.
It's
Not like the night competitions. You can't pause a battle when someone gets injured.
A night hunter? Gotta waste my precious time on the likes of you third-rate amateurs. Not one step forwards. Got it. If you want to hurt my friends, you have to go through my shield first.
우리 모두를 지킬 거야. 맛있는 거 먹자.
冇識多講。
Shatter to pieces. 다들 배고파?
Order! The court will soon reach a verdict.
Let's put an end to this as soon as possible.
It's time to make an example. We'll see what happens when they break the rules.
Many intellectuals must unsteady posture, wavering intent, much to learn yet.
Yep. This is the place. Understood. 我绝不会退缩半步呢，这样。
Not disrupt my thought. Unsteady posture, wavering intent, much after all this time. You still tend to war for solutions.
Anything you say can and will be used against you. I suggest you exercise your right to remain silent.
冇識多講。You want to talk?
1,000 moves in one breath. Unsteady posture, wavering intent, much to learn yet.
Does it hurt?
Strike! And sunder the tides. Strike! And sunder the tides kept. After all this time, unsteady posture. After all this time, after all this time, unsteady posture. 1,000 moves and unsteady posture. After all this time, 1,000 moves, strike! And sunder the unsteady posture, wavering intent. After all this time, you still tend to war for solutions. After all this time, you still tend to war for solutions.
In time?
Strike! And sunder the 1,000.
Your weapon!
After all this time, you still tend to war for solutions. After all this time, you still tend to war. Strike! 1,000 moves, strike! After all this time, you still tend to war. Unsteady pop. After all.
Don't force my hand!
After all this time, you still. After all this time, strike! Unsteady pop. 1,000 moves and after all this unsteady.
Stop!
After all this time, strike! After all this unsteady posture. After all this time, unsteady posture, wavering intent, much to learn yet. 1,000 moves and strike! And sunder the tides kept. Retract and leave no peace bereft.
Get in the...
After all this time, you still tend to war for solutions. Unsteady posture, wavering intent, much to learn yet. Unsteady posture, 1,000 moves in one breath. Unsteady posture, wavering after all this time. 1,000 moves, strike!
Drop your weapon!
Just who are you weaklings going to stop like that?
After all this time, 1,000 moves in one breath. Strike!
Didn't think. Go!
Mission accomplished.
Yeah, a flawless victory.